everyone. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. How's everyone out there doing? Hello to all of you fellow freedom fighters, as Firepower put in the chat, and then it got in my head. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I swore that this show was not going to become who are they going after? What independent media names are they going after next? Who are they attacking for freedom of speech next? But that's what it's becoming. It's just a day-to-day, oh, now it's them. Oh, Uhuru. Oh, Richard Medhurst. Oh, Scott Ritter. Oh, just day-to-day. Let's see who they're trying to shut up now. And in that regard, Russiagate is back. And it's better than ever. I'm so excited. You know, I missed it. Honestly, we really only got a taste of roughly 4 years of Russiagate that all collapsed in a hilarious cloud of bullshittery. And I definitely mixed my metaphors because it can't be collapsing in a cloud. I guess clouds could collapse. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hello, everyone. Please click thumbs up, click share, click subscribe. And yes, don't worry, to all of you in the chat who are saying the people they're going after are scumbags, I'm largely not going to disagree with you on that, but that doesn't mean that I'm okay with the crushing of freedom of speech. So we'll get into all of that in just a moment. But let's start off with how could I forget this? Later in the hour, I've got all around nice guy, but perhaps I should lead with rock and roll god James Kennedy will be on the show again. Amazing guy, also does a lot of awesome activism coming to us from the UK, so he'll be on a little later, so don't miss that. But let's start with the fact the Biden administration has announced major actions to tackle Russian efforts to influence the 2024 election. And perhaps I should, let me give you a few more details before I do that. The Biden administration announced a sweeping set of actions to tackle major, this is CNN right here, major Russian government-backed effort to influence the 2024 U.S. election, such as putting out some tweets on Wednesday, including unveiling criminal charges against 2 Russian nationals, sanctions on 10 individuals and entities, and the seizure of 32 internet domains. This is different than the 32 seizures that Joe Biden has had recently. At Russian President Vladimir Putin's direction, 3 Russian companies used fake at Putin's direction, as if as if CNN and the Justice Department know what Putin directs and doesn't direct. I guarantee you there is no way. They always just say that at Putin's direction. That was one of their big things in the last Russiagate that all collapsed was Putin told them to do it. And they had no evidence that Putin told them to do that. But we'll ignore that for the moment. 3 Russian companies used fake profiles to promote false narratives on social media as opposed to CNN that always promotes true narratives, right? Right. U.S. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said in a statement, internal documents produced by one of those Russian companies show one of the goals of the propaganda effort was to boost the candidacy of Donald Trump or whoever emerged as the Republican nominee. Okay, so before I get into all the details of this, let me start off by saying it's well known, and you've probably heard this quote before. It's a well-known quote. The Justice Department could indict a ham sandwich. An indictment doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying this one doesn't mean anything, but I'm just saying, hearing that there was a Justice Department indictment, they had an indictment against Julian Assange for being a journalist. So hearing that there's an indictment means essentially nothing. And as I put on the lower third ticker there, on the ticker of breaking news there, Justice Department did indict a Russian-backed ham sandwich named Hamas Sandanovich. So don't. So just hearing about a Justice Department indictment doesn't mean anything. But also, before I get into the details about Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and all the rest, I also wanted to just remind everyone that we're hearing about this from the same media outlets and the same Justice Department, essentially, that, well, although it was Trump's Justice Department, but doesn't really matter. Potatoes. that gave you Russiagate for 4 years. And because I covered this and trashed it and tore it apart day after day after day for 4 years, I find it a little, it feels redundant to go through any of it again. But I thought I'd give a quick 30-second refresher. I was going to say rehasher. That's a new word I just came up with. We're going to rehash it. It's a refresher. It's a rehasher. This 30-second rehasher is about the core of Russiagate, not every detail, but the core of Russiagate, that all was utter bullshit and all collapsed on their heads in a hilarious fashion. Okay, there was the Steele dossier about how Trump, was captured by Russia. It's all been proven completely false. And it was never, honestly, internally, I don't even think they thought it was anything more than just bullshit designed to make it difficult for Donald Trump. Now, here's the thing. I hate Donald Trump. He's a horrible, horrible human being. Absolute shit stain human being. But I don't think there should be fake Justice Department documents or dossiers. And I want truth. I want truth no matter what. So Steele dossier completely collapses. Also, the creation of it was funded by the DNC. Then another one of the main tenets of Russiagate was the hacking of the DNC, right? Which was where they got the internal emails that were all true and all revealed corruption by Bill Clinton, some by the Obama administration, some by Hillary Clinton, etc. We learned, if you actually followed the day by day, which the media did not want you to do, that all of the whole idea of hacking the DNC, that Russia hacked the DNC, was all debunked. It was a leak from inside the DNC. We know for certainty. We don't know where that leak came from for certainty, but a lot of people theorize that it was. But I'm just saying, we don't know, but we know it was a leak, which means that's not Russia. That's a DNC employee. Then there was, so that one's debunked. So that part of Russia gets debunked. Then there was the influence operation, right, online via Facebook and via Twitter and everything. And that operation, we now know, and in fact, we knew within a week, but they didn't want you to really care about it, the details. But we knew that influence campaign was also bullshit. The Internet Research Agency that's in St. Petersburg, Russia, if you look at the things they posted, they don't actually show any coherent message as to support Trump or don't support Trump. They also, 53, I can't remember if it was 53 or 56% of them, but more than half appeared after the election. So tough to influence an election afterwards. And then you've got the fact that most of those posts, $3 was spent on them, which if you know anything about Facebook advertising, $3 spent on a post gets it seen by one half of a dog somewhere in Poughkeepsie. So absolutely meaningless. And they indict a bunch of these people, but it all, they ultimately had to drop the indictments because they didn't have anything on them. So all of it collapses. Then another thing was the Russian bot army. That was another one of the big things that was the Russiagate, and that's been proven false as well. New York Times and MSNBC, they were all constantly promoting Hamilton 68 as, oh, Russian bots want this or want that. It was like a Ouija board. The Russian bots want you to believe. And it all collapsed. There was no Hamilton 68 was bullshit. The Russian bots were bullshit. All collapses. Here they are again, saying that, oh, no, Russian influence operation, we figured it out. They're trying to do A, B, and C. And even if it were true, and like I said, I'm going to get into this a little later, even if it were true, these are the people you should least believe on any of this garbage. Like, it is literally people who spent 4 years telling you day after day after day utter bullshit about this topic. And now here they are saying, oh, no, we got it right this time. Now here it is again. We know exactly what Russia wants, and they want this, and they're going out and they paid off these people. And so I think if you're going to get this information like this about Russian influence, it should come from any other source than the ones that have been lying to you for 4 years. It's really more than 4 years now on this topic. Okay, well, I'm gonna jump to the interview, and then we're gonna come back to this and get into even more of the details of what this indictment means for, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, some other YouTubers, and the ongoing suppression of freedom of speech, the ongoing attack on speech. But this interview actually also has to do with an attack on speech. More so about the one that's been going on in the UK. I recently had Richard Medhurst on to talk about the fact that the UK government's coming after him for his reporting. And now when I have on a friend of mine, but also just an awesome human being whose amazing activism on this topic has continues every day. And he's also a rock god. So James Kennedy. Hello.
Oh, I love that intro. How you doing, bro? It's good to see your face. How you doing, man?
How you doing? Yeah, it's good to see you. I see Elvis Costello's gotten the hats to you.
I
That's good.
told you I was going to be rocking the hat, man. You know, my hair is shiny and bountiful and beautiful, but that's why I've got to wear the hat.
I think when I threatened to make the whole interview about your hair, you threw the hat on. But
yeah, it's out of control right now, man. Good problem to have.
Just to thwart me. But okay, so I wanted to have you on, not just because I enjoy chatting with you, but also because there's been this crazy, I mean, even somehow seems even more unhinged than what's going on in the United States, largely. This attack in the UK on journalists, but specifically journalists who are promoting Free Palestine, who are talking about Israel's genocide. And yeah, if you could talk a little bit about what that means and what the hell the UK is doing right now.
Well, it seems as if the police force in the UK are now kind of like unpaid employees of the Israeli lobby. I mean, it seems to be their job now to lock away people for campaigning for peace. People who are against genocide on the internet. It seems to be the new terrorism, which is I suppose that people say, the term Orwellian quite a lot, we've entered Orwellian times, but I think we've entered not only Orwellian, but Kafkaesque times as well. When wordsmiths of peace can be accused of terrorism under the Terrorism Act, and yet the actual act of raining down terrorism upon innocent children in Gaza is not terrorism. So there we go.
And the Kafkaesque aspect actually totally gets into it with the activist Sarah Wilkinson, who said that she was arrested, she was abused, but also they took her passport from her and then did not write it down on the items of hers that they've stolen. Yep. And now they tell her she has a week to turn in her passport or she'll be arrested, but she doesn't have her passport because they took it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's truly Kafkaesque. I mean, what happened to Sarah and Richard Medhurst as well, both of which have been on my podcast, so I can speak with a little bit more authority on those two cases in particular. But they're not alone. This is a growing trend now. But what happened to Sarah was absolutely despicable because they ransacked her house, they trashed her possessions. Her mother's ashes were littered all over her attic. They hid her medication. Complete bully boy tactics. There were 12 of them. Some of them wearing balaclavas like fucking stormtroopers. I mean, just complete intimidation tactics for somebody who is is a journalist. She's got a press pass and everything, and she is the online media manager for Palestine Action. So she's essentially a journalist. I mean, it's just unspeakable. It's unspeakable. And to think that it's justified by the Anti-Terrorism Act is, again, mad times. How do you wrap your head around that one?
Yeah, and if you look at the anti-terrorism statute, what I guess Medhurst told me has been law since 2012, maybe in the UK. It says that basically you can be arrested for terrorism if you say anything in support of a terrorist group,
prescribed organization. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you look at who they've decided are terrorist groups. It's Hamas, which is the government of Gaza. So if you were to say, I hope Hamas does a good job giving healthcare to people in Gaza, that apparently is now terrorism.
You're a terrorist. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of love for Hamas, I mean.
No, me neither. But they're, whether we like it or not, they're the government in Gaza. So
yes. Yeah, and this equation between being, pro ceasefire, pro Palestine, anti genocide, the idea that that means you're anti-Semitic, or that you love Hamas and you're a fucking flag waving terrorist. Again, it's that Kafkaesque, inversion of the truth bullshit. It's that post-truth fake news, post-Trump world, soon to be the next Trump world that we live in now, where words don't matter, truth doesn't matter, facts and context don't matter. What matters is, what the most powerful dude with the biggest gun and the biggest bomb says matters.
Do you, I guess you can speak to a little bit to whether you feel this is having a chilling effect in the UK on, I don't know, maybe your favorite journalists in the UK, but I could see it even spreading to other artistic expression like music. If people are afraid to say certain things in their songs.
100%. Well, it's happened to me already. I mean, it happened to me before, October 7th. It happened to me with my album. I think we talked about it last time I was on your show, where I had my video for a song called The Power, which is just a protest rock song, was taken off YouTube. I was shadow banned, as I know you were as well. We talked about this before, on every social media platform. And about a year and a half ago, I was actually assaulted in my car by 3 undercover police officers from the organized crime squad, who were very interested in my phone and very interested in my podcast. Drove off in my car with my phone in it, and I didn't see it again until they checked it all out and everything. And I was.
But didn't they claim? I mean, this is what cops do. Didn't they claim, "Oh, we think you're a drug dealer," but meanwhile they're trying to steal your devices and things, which doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, well, obviously this has been going on over a year now with my solicitor back and forth, and what's becoming apparent is that these guys can barely write their own name, let alone form a coherent statement. So I still don't know what my thing was about, but I mean, it was some parallels with what happens with Sarah Wilkinson. It's this intimidation. I don't know. In my case, what it was connected to, but I mean, it was the whole, undercover, plainclothes little boy raced a car, physically assaulted, driven around the block for ages when the police station is 5 minutes that way, and opening the boot and pretended to put me in the boot, and fucked up my hand, by putting the handcuff across the bone in my hand and everything. It's I mean, I'm a singer, I'm not the spokesperson for Palestine Action, although I will wave the flag on every single concert that I do, but I'm not alone in that, So I mean, the censorship has been going on for a while, but now it seems as if it's ramping up into physical harassment and using of the law to kind of brutally humiliate and intimidate prominent, outspoken journalists or artists or whoever it may be on this issue.
Are there efforts ongoing right now to make sure Sarah Wilkinson doesn't end up in prison and I don't know, and protect other journalists who are facing this? Because you guys don't even have, UK doesn't even technically have freedom of speech, right?
I don't know what we have. We don't even have a constitution. We've got a Magna Carta. I don't know what that is. What is that?
Because we lie about, in the US, they lie and say we have freedom of speech. In the UK, they don't even bother to do that.
Don't forget, we had the most polite empire the world has ever known. You know what I mean? We are more full of shit than any country in history.
Except when you're bombing people.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's each bomb that's dropped has a little hat on it.
It reminds me of that Monty Python sketch, where John Cleese is like hacking off people's legs, going, "Sorry, coming through. Oh, my fault. Sorry about that. Sorry." That was essentially us.
Yeah. What are you working on these days? Is it more music, more protests, more?
All of the above, man. My second book is coming out next June, and I've just submitted as of today a pitch for my third book. We're working on new material for the next album, which is going to be, more angry, more political, and more outspoken than the last one, because that's how I am. If you try and fucking
you really don't want your YouTube videos to be
I don't give a shit. I'm past it now, man. I don't care. I don't care. It's a matter of principle now. If they try and throw water on my fire, I turn it into fucking petrol, So and then get out there. We've been doing a lot of shows. We've done a bunch of festivals, and we got a bunch of stuff coming up as well. So that's the beauty of it, man. It's like with what I do, I suppose, we can do a lot of shows, and I can get out and speak this message and this truth loud and proud on stage, and people are fucking turning out. And when I wave the Palestinian flag, they're all, applauding and screaming and stuff, so the support is out there. The internet can make us believe, I think, that, that is the world, but it isn't really. So I'm not too bothered. Yeah, I don't even really bother online now. I barely tweet. I barely post anything. If they take my next video down.
I think you were telling me on the last time we chatted that it's all pretty shadow banned anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it trashed my momentum. And then, I kind of I lost interest. I was like, fuck it, bigger world out there, than the Twitter. So I'll get out and do some shows instead. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Where can people find your stuff?
Well, I'm at James Kennedy Stuff. If you want to Google me, James Kennedy Singer. Otherwise, you'll get the douchebag from Vanderpump Rules with the blonde hair. That is not me. As we've talked about before, as you are also not the Lee Camp, the football player.
No, yeah.
We have a similar problem. So James Kennedy Singer, if you want to Google me, I'm on all my socials at James Kennedy UK. I do still post them now and again. So if you could give me some love on there, that would be great. Just to stick a middle finger to the algorithm, if nothing else. And Spotify, all that shit, James Kennedy and the Underdogs. If you're in the UK, come and check us out, man.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. I hope I get to the UK sometime so we can hang again. And thank you for not giving in. Thank you for not after being assaulted and having your stuff shadow banned. Thank you for not deciding you're just gonna write songs about flowers. So.
Never ever gonna happen, man. In fact, it has the opposite effect on me. You know what I mean? So, and likewise to yourself. I mean, you've had a lot of the same shit as well. And we look what happened with you with your TV show and everything, and all your podcasts taken down, and entire 8 years of your life's legacy, erased. But you're still fucking fighting and trucking hard, and we appreciate you for it, man. And that's the thing. I know Sarah Wilkinson well. I know Richard Medhurst and all the others will as well. It has the opposite effect. So people like us are still going to be on the right side of history when all of those police officers and all those fucking spineless politicians are, looking themselves in the eye, ashamed and unable to sleep at night.
Thank you, man. Be well, and I'll see you soon.
Keep fighting, brother.
Keep fighting.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. All right. James Kennedy, always a pleasure to talk to him. Love that guy. Please look up his stuff if you haven't before. Okay, let's dive right back in, and please everyone click thumbs up. Don't forget to do that, and hit share and hit subscribe. It does help despite all of the suppression and everything. And I always tell people, like, hit subscribe, hit the bell. You're probably not going to get alerted to my live streams anyway, so just show up. I need you all to just show up. Most days I'm here at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I might do a different time every once in a while, but basically 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, youtube.com/moment of clarity or rumble.com/Lee Camp, and just show up. Also, if you throw in a super chat, a couple of bucks in the super chat, I will try and address all those, get all those up on the screen. And thanks so much. But okay, so let's get back into this. And here's the response. So, well, hold on. I don't know if I already said the part about which media company they're going after. So the RT staffers. Now, some of you may know RT is a TV channel that I used to work for. Now, I used to work for the American TV channel. It is now gone. It was shuttered 2 years ago. So I have not worked for in any shape, way, or form RT in over 2 years. But I had a show Redacted Tonight with RT America for 8 years, weekly show. And we were hugely popular despite all of the suppression we faced. And then ultimately they banned our YouTube around the world. And to this day, it's banned around the world. So I know a little something about RT, but I do not know either of the people that they're talking about. I assume these RT International people, because RT America is no more. This article says the RT staffers named in the indictment are Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Offensiva. They've been charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. They're accused of funneling nearly $10 million to an unnamed Tennessee company that contracted with online influencers with big audiences. Attorney General says the company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to RT and the Russian government. So they say outright that these influencers did not know that they were being paid by RT, which very well could be true. Now, the amounts of money are pretty insane. They say that one of these influencers was getting $400,000 a month, which is just totally. I mean, I should have been a right-wing troll. I really should have. This whole like caring about human beings and stuff is really just not the way to chase the money. I've just done a terrible job of this. So next week, everybody, I'll begin my Trump is the man new series. Just kidding. But as I said, I mentioned it earlier. I'm getting ahead of myself again. The media company that's not named in the indictment is, everyone has decided, and it seems very true, is definitely Tenet Media, Tenet Media, which was founded in 2022, but I think they didn't start actually putting up pieces till 2023, maybe. But anyway, founded in 2022 by Lauren Chin, a conservative Canadian YouTuber who I've never heard of, but apparently she's on Glenn Beck's Blaze TV, and Liam Donovan, her husband. And she's also a contributor to the right-wing activist group Turning Point USA. She also wrote some pieces for RT in 2021 and 2022. According to the indictment, the Tennessee's company's founders worked with the two RT employees to recruit influencers and trick them into not knowing they were being paid by Russia. But someone points out, which is pretty interesting, that the two founders, those two people, Lauren Chin and her husband. So this is Andrew Weissman, who says the new DOJ charging documents raise a curious question. DOJ charges two lower level employees of a Russian front company. That's Lauren Chin. But despite providing chapter and verse about the complicity of the two founders of that company, the founders are not charged. And he says his suspicion is the founders were charged a while ago under seal and were flipped and are now cooperating with the Justice Department. That's why they're not charged. So you have the founders getting away with doing this while the lower level people are the ones that are now getting charged, which is pretty fucked up to begin with. And so the people that have worked for this company apparently are Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, for Tenet Media, I guess. I'm trying to see if it lists some of the other. Oh, yeah. Benny Johnson and Laura Southern. Now, because I don't really pay much attention to right-wing media, I don't know Benny Johnson or Laura Southern. I know Tim Pool and Dave Rubin. I don't really know them personally. I think I was on a panel with Tim Pool once. I maybe chatted with him like 12 years ago or something, around the time of Occupy Wall Street or something, but that's more than 12 years ago, I think. But anyway, I want to reiterate that it doesn't mean, I don't have to like these people for me to think that this is wrong in multiple ways. You're supposed to be, in the United States of America, entitled to freedom of speech. It actually is not supposed to matter who's paying you. Working at RT America, which I did until 2 years ago, was not illegal and technically should still not be illegal. Like, you should be allowed to work at a media company. It doesn't really matter whether you're in the United States or not. I was never told what to say. I never told you have to say this. Nothing I ever said was censored. I had different viewpoints than most of the people on RT on certain areas, such as like climate crisis and stuff. So, and was never told not to say that. So I realize I may have lived in a kind of different world because I am a left-wing comedian and that was the only comedy show on RT. maybe I lived in a different world than a lot of these people, but it should not be illegal to work for a media company. It doesn't matter whether you're American. It doesn't matter whether the company is, and more on this in a second. It doesn't whether the company is another country or not. Many people in the U.S. work for BBC. Many people in the U.S. work for CBC. Many people in the U.S. work for CGTN. Many people in the U.S. used to work for Telesur until those sanctions made that illegal. So the U.S. is just trying to crush all of the media organizations that are not aligned with U.S. empire. And they're also trying to crush any YouTubers that are not aligned with U.S. empire. Now, I get that for the most part, Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, they're not really anti-U.S. empire. They're just, I think they're anti maybe war in Ukraine or something. But much like Tucker Carlson, they seem to have no qualms with the U.S. owning the world. Anyway, here's Dave Rubin's statement on it. He says, these allegations clearly show that I and other commentators were victims of the scheme. I knew absolutely nothing about any of this fraudulent activity. People of the Internet was a silly show. I guess they mentioned this show, People of the Internet. Silly show covering viral videos, which ended 4 months ago. The DOJ never contacted me regarding this matter, and I have no intention to comment further. And then he points to a part of the indictment that says that a fake funder of this media organization was made up to trick these people into thinking it was not Russians funding it. Now, with everything else I've said about how it should be legal to speak your mind, it doesn't really matter who's paying you. We supposedly have freedom of speech. However, I will add this caveat about what is kind of gross and sleazy is if someone's paying you to say specific things, like if they come to you and say, here's a lot of money, I want you to, suddenly start liking big oil or liking Donald Trump, that's gross. And you as a viewer should be entitled to no longer respect that commentator and to say you have been captured because you are saying certain things because you've been paid to say it. But I still, as someone who endorses freedom of speech, I still don't believe it should be illegal to do those things. And in fact, 99.9% of the time in the US, it's not illegal to do those things, right? Because CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, PBS, NPR, they all do those things. CBS, NBC, ABC, that is what their job is. They are paid a lot of money and told say these things. Now, I lived in this rare world as a comedian, I guess. It was one of the biggest reasons, but I lived in this rare world where I was at RT and not told to say things. But we know that on mainstream media, they're told to say things. In fact, I sometimes like to point out that one of these big viral moments, you might remember it from several years ago, for Mika Brzezinski, maybe the first time you ever learned her name, was when she was reading a news broadcast and she refused to talk about Paris Hilton. And she holds up the piece of paper saying, I'm not doing it. I'm not talking about it. This is so stupid. And she balls it up. And it went viral because she was standing up against the man and saying she was not. But you realize what that means? That means all of the other times she's being told what to say. That was the one time about Paris Hilton she didn't. All of the other times about how the U.S. war is appropriate, how invading Iraq is great, how WMD, all that stuff she did for years and years. It was Paris Hilton that she wouldn't talk about. That was her red line. But I'm just saying their job is to be paid to say stuff, to say it in a very specific way. And in fact, those who go rogue out of what are the allowable talking points of these networks, the stuff they're told to say, those people are fired or put out to pasture or whatever. Some of them ended up at RT America when it was still around. They ended up as my colleagues, Rick Sanchez, Ed Schultz, Chris Hedges, Jesse Ventura. All of those people had been at mainstream media, New York Times, MSNBC, etc., CNN. They'd been at mainstream media. They'd gone rogue. Ed Schultz, it was for endorsing Bernie Sanders. Chris Hedges, it was for coming out against the Iraq War. Jesse Ventura, it was for being against the Iraq War. And then it was like, oh, you aren't saying the thing you're paid to say. Get the hell out of here. And they ended up at RT America where they had a lot more freedom. With Rick Sanchez, it was I think, more about he actually asked some very simple questions about the Palestinian people, and that got him kind of pushed out at various at some of the networks he worked for, because he was saying, like, don't the Palestinians kind of have a point here? Aren't they kind of being attacked? Well, yeah, someone mentions Larry King. Larry King was also at RT when I was, but Larry King was at RT because CNN had decided he was old. I mean, you know, I interviewed Larry King. I was on his show as well, and a lovely gentleman, but he was not known for pushing buttons. He just, CNN didn't like his age. Okay, let's see. So here is Tim Pool's statement. And just again, the amount of money these people are given for, some of them were, it says some of them were getting $100,000 a month. Others were getting $400,000 a month. Jesus, Lord almighty. That's insanity. I'm telling you, I went the wrong route. This whole, like, be moral and push for peace and equality. Good God. The swimming pools. I could have swimming pools on top of swimming pools on top of swimming pools if I had just gone a different route. Tim Bull says, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak to anyone else at the company, speak for anyone else. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet, and it will continue to exist. The only change with the agreement was probably the amount of money coming in. I'll tell you that much. The only change with the agreement was the location of the live broadcast moved to Tenet's YouTube channel. Never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control. The show is produced in its entirety by our local team. And anyway, then he decides to throw in Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks donkey balls. In case anyone was wondering. But if that was the thing that, like, if that's him proving that Russia never told him what to say, I guess he should have said it before the indictment rather than after. But I don't know whether he did. I don't watch enough Tim Pool to know whether he says that kind of thing on a regular basis. But anyway. But so I think I've made my point that taking money to say something specific, not to give in a topic, because I had my show at RT. I wrote a few things for RT, the website. This is, again, over 2 years ago, before all these sanctions came down, before they were sanctioning these things. So now they're making it arrestable to work for RT. So this is way before that. But I used to also occasionally write an article for RT, their website. And when I would do that, as is the case with every outlet that's ever existed, they might give me a topic. They'd say, like, hey, can you write about the election in America that's coming up? Hey, can you write about this, the banking collapse or whatever? That wasn't one of them, but I'm just throwing out topics. And of course, because otherwise you don't really, how would they get an article on the thing they wanted? But they weren't ever telling me my angle or telling me what I had to say. And, that continues with the work I do now. I write articles sometimes. Rarely do I write articles anymore, but sometimes I write articles for someone, and they'll often give me a topic. If I didn't want to talk about the topic, I wouldn't cover it. But there's a difference between that and being told this is what you have to say. And, but that is not illegal. None of that should be illegal. We should have freedom of speech. And that's why I'm doing this elongated segment right now, is because I may not agree with whatever percentage, I don't know if it's 90% or 99% of what Tim Pool or Dave Rubin say, but you should still support freedom of speech, or else what are we fucking doing here, folks? What is this? Like, if I were to just only want freedom of speech for the people I agree with, then, man, am I setting myself up to be attacked and imprisoned one day. Oh, well, I only thought it was wrong when it wasn't me doing it. So I hope that if this shit comes after me, I hope you'll defend me when the time comes. I just want to show you one more thing about how dumb this indictment is. here is what the indictment says that these people were told to disseminate in the indictment. So it says campaign topics: encroaching universal poverty. Boy, you really have to be told if you're talking about political issues in the U.S. You really have to be told to talk about poverty, right? It takes Russia for American citizens to notice poverty. Record inflation. Wow, none of our mainstream media talks about that at all. Halting of economic growth, unaffordable prices for food and essential goods, risk of job loss for white Americans. I don't know why they have to make it racial, but but so a lot of these are just like Fox News talking points. Privileges for people of color, perverts and disabled. I mean, perverts and disabled. I never thought I'd read a sentence that says, the perverts and the disabled. This just sounds like this could be a Fox News memo, honestly. Like, explain to me how this is different from what Fox News is telling their anchors to talk about. But okay, I also wanted to get to to the Foreign Agent Registration Act and how stupid it is for a couple of minutes. So until 2016, when they made RT, and I still worked there then, but they made RT, the company, register as a foreign agent, not journalists that worked there, but they made the company register as a foreign agent. It had never been used against a media agency before, because the idea of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, when it was created, was to make lobbyists, people that actually go and like meet with government officials and say, you need to do A, B, and C. They had to announce that they were working for and being paid by a foreign government. That was what it was designed for. Then in 2016, they go, oh, no, you know what? Now, if you're just talking on a TV or on the internet, you now count as like a lobbyist for a foreign government, which is insane. And of course, goes after all kinds of freedom of speech. So they make RT register. Then RT's press passes are all taken away. I wasn't using mine anyway. So like I wasn't going on to Capitol Hill anyway. So it didn't matter for me. But it wasn't until these past 2 years that they decided to start indicting and arresting people for working for a media agency, which again, wildly fucked up and wildly anti-free speech. Here is some of what the Foreign Agent Registration Act says. And many lawyers have looked into this and have said the FARA Act is so broad. FARA is what a lot of people call it for short. The FARA Act is so broad that you could indict just about anyone who has anything to do with another country. Now, I don't know if you know this. And yeah, someone's talking about Uhuru. I talked about them the other day. Uhuru's on trial right now for this exact thing. Literally trials going on in Florida. And the Uhuru movement is a group of socialist, mostly black folks, but not all black folks, that have been around and fighting against war and for socialism for years and years. And now suddenly the Justice Department wants to say they're foreign agents and they deserve to be in prison. And the act is written so broadly that it could just about apply to anyone who has anything to do with another country. An agent is an individual or entity that acts, quote, within the United States at the order, request, direction, or control of either. So could even be request, which again could apply for, hey, can you write an article about how the U.S. Attempted to coup Venezuela, which is something I talk about all the time anyway, right? And okay, sure, I'll write a topic on the thing I always talk about. Oh, now, well, because that was BBC, a British media company, you're now a foreign agent for BBC because you wrote an article on this U.S. thing. Now, of course, they never go after people that are allies because that doesn't count as foreign agency. Only when it's someone we want to go after does it count. So to continue, they say, or control of either a foreign principal or a person, any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized in whole or in major part by a foreign principal. an individual or entity can become an agent even without a contractual relationship or formal agreement with a foreign principal. Okay, so it's taking any direction. Hey, Pippo Loan just donated over on Rumble. Thank you, Pippo, for the donation. And thank you to any of you who throw in super chats. And even if you're not watching this live, if you throw in a couple of bucks on the super chat, it is hugely beneficial and helps keep this show going. And if you're in another country, when you guys donate on the super chat, that officially makes me a foreign agent for whatever country you're in, because this law is insanity. It is just straight up 1984. But okay, as the I just read you about what FARA is, and I'll read you one little thing more before I make another point. It says if you engage in political activities are activities intended to any way influence. So me speaking to you, anyone who speaks to someone wants to have some kind of influence, right? If you walk up to your neighbor and go, I think the lawns in this neighborhood are just like, they're not well trimmed enough. And I think we really need to put the smack down on that. We should pass a thing at the town council saying that the lawns need to be better trimmed. Well, you just tried to influence someone, right? And if you got $3 from Switzerland recently, that means you're a foreign agent for Switzerland. Political activities, any influence, either an agency or official of the government of the United States or any section of the public within the United States, anyone in the United States. If you were to walk up, if you're a Chinese citizen who's also an American citizen, which we have a lot of dual citizens in this country, and you walk up to someone and say, man, there's too much litter in this town. Okay, you have just committed an act of foreign agency. The political or public interest, policies, or relations of a government of a foreign country, foreign political party. It covers lobbying, political relations activities, even tourism promotion. Now, think about everything that could apply to what I've just been saying. Of course, Israel. Israel is at the top of this list, right? Israel has giant lobbies in the United States and literally funds political campaigns. They spent, AIPAC is the foreign lobbying arm. They used to have Zionism in the name. They changed their name. Thank you, Herney Hill, for the donation. Solidarity. They have bragged about spending $100 million on this latest election. They have also bragged that like 90% of the time when they fund a candidate, they win. So they've bragged about manipulating U.S. elections. That is the most cut and dry Foreign Agent Registry Act violator you've ever seen in your life. That is to the letter, to the T, a foreign agent influencing elections. So, of course, Israel. But then think about all the other countries. Saudi Arabia has ads in the United States. Vice News used to produce stuff for Saudi Arabia. You have like UAE is it UAE or Dubai, or maybe it was Dubai that's funding a lot of the U.S. Open tennis tournament right now. And like at the end of the match, the representatives of Dubai or UAE Airlines or whichever one, maybe it's UAE Airlines, walk out and hand out stuff to the winner. Like, this is thank you, Sherry, for the donation. Solidarity. So there are just blatant examples of commercials like trying to influence the American people that it does not count for some odd reason. But also the way this law is described, it could also apply to Toyota, the company, Shell Oil, BP, like any of these companies that are technically connected to another country or based in another country are foreign nationals directing influence on our government. I mean, think about all the influence that these big oil companies, that big banks in other countries have on the U.S., Deutsche Bank or something. Think of all of the massive influence. Monsanto, one of the most criminal organizations in the U.S., is now owned by Bayer, a German company. So Bayer, think about the influence that Bayer Pharma has and Monsanto have on the U.S. government. So this law is a bullshit law that is used by our fascist state to go after enemies. They can basically indict anyone. They can go after anyone. And again, it doesn't matter if I dislike or disagree with some of the people they're going after. That's not really the point. I mean, actually, most of the ones they're going after, like Richard Medhurst and, well, that's UK, but still, and Scott Ritter, are people that I largely agree with, and going after them. Uhuru. So this is just, I mean, it is the U.S. becoming a fascist state. It really is. There's no other way to describe it. This law can be used to just go after anyone. It's just totally revolting. And anyway, sorry to spend too much time on that, but I feel like it deserved it. Okay, I want to get to, let's see, at least two more topics. One is about Israel using the West Bank as a testing ground for ethnic cleansing. The West Bank, not Gaza. The West Bank now. But before I get to that, let me just not leave out. Well, first of all, I should say, if you feel like you got 38 cents out of this episode and you want to see this show keep going, because it is a fight every day to keep things running here. If you want to see this show keep going, please become a member for $6 a month. Or, I mean, you're welcome to do more, but the minimum is $6 a month at leecamp.net, which is my locals page. Scroll down to become a subscriber, or patreon.com/leecamp. That's patreon.com/leecamp. You get all kinds of free stuff, including my ebooks, including my comedy special, including extra segments often. And like, with all this oppression and the shit I've faced, you guys are the reason I'm able to have this show. So thank you. And I'm not getting the $400,000 a month checks that apparently some of these other YouTubers are getting. Totally insane amounts of money. Which explains why Tim Pool had the $85,000, I think it was, to buy a skate park in West Virginia. Apparently he's a skater, and a West Virginia, I think it was West Virginia skate park, refused to let him skate there because they don't like him. And he then bought the entire land that the park is on, which apparently cost $85,000. And he hasn't done anything with it except, I think, allow himself to skate there. But the fact that he's just like, 85 grand for a skate park, who cares? Yeah, makes more sense now. But anyway, so that's patreon.com/leecamp. But okay, before I get to Israel real quick, Phoenix has had 100 days of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. 100 straight days of over 100 degrees. And yes, this is a record. For those of you who go, Phoenix just hot. It's just been hot all. No, this is absolutely a record. Excessive heat warnings are in effect. Southern California, Northern Weather Service is forecasting several days of triple-digit heat with the highs of 120 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Phoenix, Arizona shattered its previous record after logging 100th consecutive day of temperatures reaching 100 degrees or more. And to me, this is, to mention climate crisis is one thing, but I think another aspect of climate crisis is not just, oh shit, there's more hurricanes, or oh, sometimes places flood. It is that regions of this country will quickly become completely unlivable. Yes, you can survive 100 days in 100 degrees if you're inside air conditioning, but the systems cannot, we can't just live in air conditioning 24/7 all the time. It is, the systems are not prepared for this. But then on top of that, I don't know if you know this, we actually need the stuff outside the air conditioning in order for us to exist. We need the trees and the birds and things to also survive. And like, I don't know how long bugs and birds and things can go in 100 degrees for 100 days straight. But this is an example of how places in the US will become unlivable. And Phoenix, I don't know where it stands the past couple of years, because maybe people are realizing where the trend is. But Phoenix, as of a few years ago, was one of the hottest housing markets. Like, everybody was moving there. And I mean, the size of Phoenix over the past 20 years has just skyrocketed. But now it seems like a lot of Phoenix is melting. So everyone who continues to either support just endless fossil fuel use or support one of the two corporate parties who support endless fossil fuel use or act like climate crisis isn't happening, you people are killing us all. So thank you for that. It's like, how hot. I wonder how many people in Phoenix, after 100 days and 100 degrees, still walk outside and go, yeah, climate change not real. Because I feel like there's still a lot of them that still believe that, still turn on Fox News or Glenn Beck or some shit and go, yeah, no, just nothing happening here. As birds fall out of the sky, they're like, that. Listen, birds would fall out of the sky when I was a kid too, fully cooked. Happened all the time. Okay, let's get to this last story. This is from Mondo Weiss, which excellent outlet on the topic of Israel. Israel is testing the boundaries for ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. And I highlighted this story because it's not Gaza. So for anyone who says, oh, no, Israel just has to defend itself in Gaza right now, they're also ethnic cleansing in the West Bank right now. The article begins, there's a pretense of novelty in Israel's most recent offensive in the West Bank, which it has glibly called Operation Summer Camps. Could these operation names get any more Orwellian? Operation Happy Joy. Even before it began, Israel announced that the operation was the most wide-ranging invasion of the West Bank since 2002. What is most striking about this framing is the charade that each new operation represents a fresh response to an emerging threat. In truth, these actions are part of a continuous, unbroken chain of suppression and a bloody impulse through which Israel exercises its power to kill and arrest, all the while undergirded by a continuous desire to see Palestinians disappear. And this is really a key point, and it shows how meaningless all the propaganda about Gaza is. If you're just after Hamas, if you're just committing genocide in Gaza because of Hamas, then why is it you're attacking the West Bank on a regular basis? They kill people every day in the West Bank, just not at the numbers they're killing in Gaza. First and foremost, Israel's military machine is being driven by the demands of its own settlers. And settlers is a euphemism for people that have invaded and stolen land, like recently. I'm not even talking about when Israel was founded. I'm talking like the past couple of years. They go into Palestinian towns or Palestinian houses. They kick the people out. They are armed with bulldozers and construction crews. They're also protected by the IDF. They kick people out. They sometimes just steal the home and just go inside and claim it's their own. But often they bulldoze everything and put up their own homes and say, then this is our land. Settler is a major euphemism, a major propaganda term, but outlets that are doing great work like Mondo Weiss don't know what else to call them because we don't really have a term for it, other than settlers. Karima in the chat says they should be called land rapers. Use your own term. Get creative with it. Come up with what you'd like. Pillagers, maybe? Anyway, Israel's military machine is being driven by the demands of its own land pillagers and the right-wing agenda that pushes the country toward perpetual war. The need to see things happening, soldiers breaking into homes, Palestinian fighters being killed, is imperative for the type of war Israel is currently waging, even in areas where it's supposedly not waging it. This pressure for more war originating in a certain segment of Israeli society is juxtaposed with another pressure from a different segment, which concedes the need for more war, but insists on getting back the captives held in Gaza. That's all the protests you see in Israel. They know that the Israeli government is not actually trying to get back the captives. The West Bank offers a convenient respite, a new theater, quote unquote, another military euphemism, where the illusion of control and progress can be temporarily sustained, even as the broader strategic picture grows increasingly dire. And here's an example of the machinery they roll down the street with, completely armored, designed to run people over if they get in the way, but also knock down houses and structures. And it's psychological warfare as well. They've also been destroying, the water sources, wells and things, just to make it incredibly difficult to live in the West Bank, even if you aren't actively being shot by the IDF. If you don't have water, if you don't have food, if you're, if your olive trees, etc., are being destroyed and being set fire to. Here's one place in the West Bank that's completely destroyed. They're strangling the West Bank. More fundamentally, Israel's policy of economic deprivation in the West Bank, alongside efforts by its right-wing factions to decouple Israeli trade, labor markets, and infrastructure from the territory, gives a glimpse of the type of war advocated by figures like Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir. Ben-Gvir, of course, the well-known quote-unquote defense minister. Since October 7th, the leaders of the Messianic settler movement, who are now driving Israel's government agenda, have intensified their efforts to arm settlers in mass and are directing the state to further decouple Israel from the West Bank economically, financially, and infrastructurally so that they can destroy it. But yeah, I feel like that's an important story because not enough is talking about the West Bank because of the horror show in Gaza, but you have ethnic cleansing going on in the West Bank. It's just not at the level of the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, and therefore it's rarely talked about. But of course, if nothing were happening in Gaza and this were only going on in the West Bank, we would be talking about this like it's utterly horrific. People are murdered every day. But people's houses are stolen every day. Water sources destroyed every day. Economically destroyed every day. Sometimes even bombs landing in West Bank. But doesn't get talked about because it's not Gaza. Okay. That was a more tiring hour than normal. Probably because the topic makes me so angry of the endless arrests and suppression and attack on freedom of speech in this country. But all right, folks, I will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I'm not actually sure Eleanor will be here. It might be one more week till Eleanor is here. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. But 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I do these 4 days a week at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Join me. You can also watch them afterwards if you can't always make it. And there are podcasts. These podcasts come out like every day. On Spotify, it's called The Lee Camp Show. On other platforms, it's called Moment of Clarity. But it is this show via podcast, so you can listen to it on your drive if you miss an episode. And thank you, Kevin O'Neill, for the donation. Love you, Kevin O'Neill. I also love Dave Attell. Dave Attell, I didn't know him well when I was in New York doing stand-up, but he was on a few shows with me. And perhaps the only conversation I had with him, he was incredibly kind to me. I performed at the Comedy Cellar in New York City, and when I got off stage, he's like, "Wow, that was some real fire and brimstone shit." He gave me a big compliment. So, gotta love me some Dave Attell. All right, folks, I will see you tomorrow, and keep fighting.